Hello, my awesome first grade artist. We are getting ready to start our fourth big lesson for this year. I'm so excited because I think this is a really fun one and you're going to enjoy using paint and oil pastels for this one. So for this, we're going to be doing a painting of a sunflower, and we're going to be talking about an artist named Vincent Van Gogh. He's a very, very famous artist. Before you start this lesson, though, teachers, I want you to search for Camille and the Sunflower by Lawrence Anholt on YouTube and let the students watch that to kind of get them in the mood for what this is about. And then we're going to get started after you've watched that. So to begin with, I wanted to show you some examples of artwork by Vincent Van Gogh. So he was an artist who lived from 1853 to 1890. And he is one of the most famous painters ever. He's one of my very, very favorite painters. And he's very well known for painting sunflowers. This is one of his sunflowers. Let me show you. And you see in this painting, I want you to look really close. This is just a photograph. So if you saw the one in real life, you would see all of his brush strokes. Van Gogh was really known for using thick paint when he painted, and you could see all of his brush strokes. His paint was so thick that sometimes it would take weeks, months, or even years to fully dry. But that's what makes him so unique and different. Let me show you another one. This is a self-portrait. So a self-portrait is when you paint a picture of yourself. So this was Van Gogh painting a picture of himself. And you can see the brush strokes. They create movement in the background. So instead of painting this just one solid color, you can see where he's moved his brush, and you see all kinds of movement in here. And if you saw this in real life, the paint strokes would be very thick. The paint would be sticking up. It's so thick. But we're going to be doing a sunflower. And so I've got some different examples. This is one that I did. They're all very similar. So you can just see lots of the similar colors. We're going to be using contrast because our sunflower is going to be warm colors and our background is going to be cool colors. And those are very different, so they contrast. So to begin with, you're going to have a long piece of black paper. I want you to put your name sticker on the back so everybody knows whose is whose, and you're going to have to start with a white colored pencil so it will show up on here. And we're going to begin by drawing our sunflower. So to begin, your teacher will give you one of these styrofoam plates. This will help you as a template, so it will help you know how big to make your circle, and that's where we're going to start, the big giant circle that is the center of our sunflower. So I want you to find about where the halfway part of your paper is. Mine is right about here, and you're going to go just right there above that. And that's where you're going to sit your circle right there in the middle, just above the halfway part. Teachers, you can help the students know where to put their circle, and then you're just going to use your white colored pencil and trace it. That's going to be where the middle is. And inside of sunflowers, I don't know if you've ever seen a real sunflower, but there's all these little seeds. And that's where we get sunflower seeds that we eat or that birds eat. And they're just filled up in this big center part of the sunflower. Okay, so we're going to put this aside, and then you can start drawing your petals. So when I draw my petals, I just make a curved line that goes like that, and then one that goes down. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way around my sunflower making the petals. So I want you to do the same thing. Try to make them all similar. If you need to turn your paper, you can do that. Sometimes it helps when we turn our paper to draw. It's just two curved lines that come together. Okay, there are all my petals. And now I'm going to make the stem and the leaves. So in the middle at the bottom, I'm just going to make two lines that go straight down all the way to the bottom of the page. Let me scoot this up a little bit so you can see. And then I'm going to put a big leaf at the bottom. I'm going to draw my leaves the same way I made my petals. And then I'll make this one a little bit higher. You can make your leaves wherever you want, or you can put more than 2 leaves. But don't make anything too small or it'll be really hard to paint. So that's step 1, drawing your sunflower. So now it's time to paint our sunflowers. And teachers, when the students paint theirs, you'll want to have a center set up somewhere in your room. I'm going to come in with this paper and put underneath because we will be painting all the way to the edge. So have a center set up where you can have a few students paint at a time for this. All right, then you'll need to have some palettes. I just put them on a paper plate. I've got orange, yellow, green, and white. I've got a bowl of water, and I've got one of these flat paint brushes. You should have these about this size. This size is perfect for painting the whole thing. Make sure the students wash their brush each time they change their big major colors. Okay, so now first of all, I'm going to start by painting the sunflower. I'm going to start just by painting a ring around it. Now, teachers, this is important. When they first start painting, the paint is going to look like it's not showing up enough. It's going to look like it's kind of blending with that black, and you're going to think, oh my, they just need to keep painting and making it thicker. But as it dries, it will lighten up. So don't worry if at first you feel like it's not showing up enough. So you can see my palette. Now, when Van Gogh painted, a lot of the times he would just mix his colors straight on the canvas. He wouldn't do a lot of mixing on his palette. So we're going to kind of do that. I'm going to get a little orange and a little yellow and kind of bring them together, but I'm not going to mix them perfectly. You see how it's kind of streaky looking? And I'm just going to start by going in and going around my circle and painting right on it using the flat side of that paintbrush. When the paint starts to run out, you get more. And at first, you're going to see a lot of the black coming through, like I said, but it's going to dry very differently than when it first goes on. You'll see. So we're just outlining our big circle in the middle. We're not going to paint that in because that's where we're going to put our sunflower seeds. So the next thing is we're just going to paint our petals. So when I paint my petals, I do one stroke like that, one stroke back down, and then the same thing to fill the middle. Let the students leave their brush strokes. They don't have to try to smooth it out because we're painting like Vincent Van Gogh. And you could see Van Gogh's brush strokes. So don't worry about everything being perfectly smooth for this one. Van Gogh's artwork is mainly now found in art museums. And I wonder if any of you have ever been to an art museum. An art museum is where they have lots and lots of art, all different kinds of art from artists over all the years. And you get to see all the different ones. And the people at the museum keep the paintings and the sculptures and whatever kind of art it is, they keep them very clean and nice for us to look at. And so art museums are really important for us to be able to go and view a lot of this famous art. So if you ever get a chance to go to an art museum with your family or your friends, you should do that. You may be able to see one of these famous pieces of art. Okay, I'm going to wash my brush because I can tell I didn't wash my brush very good earlier and I see some blue paint coming out. So I'm going to wash it off. When you wash your brush, you drag it along the bottom of the bowl. And then you dry it off with your paper towel. So I'm going to go back in doing the same thing, painting my petals, letting those brush strokes show. Not trying to be perfect, just having fun, but take your time. Don't rush. Okay, now that's done. I'm going to now paint the leaves and the stem. So you can see, teachers, as it's starting to dry, it's like the paint is getting lighter. So it's showing up a lot better than when you first put it on. It's almost like magic. So I've washed my brush. Now I'm going to go into my green and white for the stem and the leaves. Once the water starts to get really dirty, teachers, you'll need to change it because it can make the paint dirty if they're using dirty water to rinse their brushes. So I'm just going to go straight down and paint my stem. When the paintbrush gets scratchy and dry and paint starts coming off, you have to refill it with paint. And I'm just kind of mixing some white and green together, just like I did. I'm not trying to make it perfectly mixed. I fill in the same way. Just letting my brush strokes show. Okay. There's our leaves and our stem. Take your brush back over here, wash it out, but we're going to leave it in the water because before we paint our background, we're going to add the sunflower seeds. So everybody will get a Q-tip. You only use it one time and then it gets thrown away because the cotton will start to come apart. So you just come over and get in your mixture of orange and yellow and you just start making dots all over. Once the paint isn't coming off anymore, fill it up again. And you're just going to make dots all over, just like sunflowers would be. You're just pressing it up and down. You're not drawing a line. You're not trying to draw a circle. You're just touching the tip of the Q-tip to the paper. Fill it up really good. You'll have some black showing, but really get in there and put lots and lots of sunflowers because that's how a sunflower in nature would be. We used to grow sunflowers, and some sunflowers are so tall, they would be taller than us. And as the day goes along, they follow the sun. So, you know, the sun moves, or we move around the sun, actually. And as the sun changes locations in our landscape, the sunflowers will follow it. So they're always facing the sun. That's why they're called sunflowers. They love the sun. Okay, so after you fill that up, that'll be good, and then you can just throw that Q-tip away. You're finished with that. All right, the next step, you may want to let these dry, teachers, but after this, they will be painting their backgrounds. We're going to use this turquoise color. It looks really dark. I'm going to squirt some on my palette, and just like the sunflower, you see how it's getting lighter as it dries. It's going to look at first like this turquoise paint is not showing up, but it will as it dries. So don't worry that it's looking like it's too dark to begin with. The students are going to paint the background around the sunflower, but they're going to leave black around the petals and the stems. So they're not going to go all the way up to it. It'll help give it a little bit more contrast, and then you won't have to worry about them painting over the sunflower. So just let them start. See, that's very, very dark right now. It may even be kind of hard for you to see, but we're just going in and we're not going directly up to it. We're leaving some black around. It's almost like magic how it's going to dry lighter. You won't even believe it, but that's what's going to happen. So just make sure they're putting enough, but they don't have to keep going over it. It's going to dry light. And then if you have papers under the painting, you won't have to worry when they go off the edge of the paper. See how I'm going off the edge, but I have a piece of paper and it's protecting my work surface. So leave the black. Again, let your brush strokes show. Just like Van Gogh, it creates movement. So now I'm going to come over here, doing the same thing. Letting my brush strokes show. So there's going to be when you let your brush strokes show, there's going to be some places that are thicker than others. And that's just how Van Gogh's painting was. This summer, I got to go to an art museum, and I got to see some Van Gogh stuff in real life, and it was really, really fun to go see his artwork in real life. Because when you see it in real life, it's even better than what the pictures show. So right, like I said, don't go all the way up to the edge. Leave some black around your flower petals. You may even start to see how the background is starting to dry where I've started painting this turquoise blue. You see down here, you can start to see how it's lightening up. Paint doesn't always do that, but tempera paint is a little bit different. and painting on black is different. So that was just a really neat surprise when that happened that way. Just going around. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there, but you would finish it all the way out. Make sure you put your brush back in the water. Now, I'm going to move this one, and then I'm going to show you what one looks like that has been drying. I'm going to move this because that's wet, but I can reuse that for another project after it dries, so I'm not going to throw that away. All right, so here's one that I had already let dry. So you see how now your turquoise shows up really good. Everything's dry on here. So the very last step of this project is to add some more lines and movement with our oil pastels. So we're going to get our fat oil pastels that we've used before, and we're just going to go in on the petals. I'm going to start with some orange, and you can just kind of draw some petal shapes around. You may even want to go around your circle and make a line. We're not coloring with our oil pastels. We're just drawing lines. And this is just going to give it a little bit more texture. Using more than one material. So it'll make it just be a little more interesting. You can use any of these warm colors that you want. That one doesn't really show up much. Let me see what yellow shows up like. You can also use white. I'm just drawing those petal shapes. Do not color with your oil pastel, just draw lines. I'm going to go in with some greens. Making some lines. Let's see what this really light green. Oh yeah, that shows up good. Just making lines in the directions that my petals and my stems go. And then what the fun part will be our background. So I want you to use some cool colors like your blues and your purples, and you're going to make whatever kind of lines you want. I made swirly lines there, I made circles here, and I made wavy lines here. So I'm going to get this lighter blue, and I think I'm going to make some spirals. This just creates even more movement and variety. But you can make whatever kind of lines, because I would like for everybody's to look different and unique. So remember the examples that I showed you. You can make straight lines. And then I'm going to get a little darker blue, and I'm going to kind of go in again. And I may just overlap some of those. This reminds me of Van Gogh's paintings when he paints skies. Because like you can almost think about the wind blowing and swirling around. And maybe where my sunflower is, the wind is doing that. It's blowing and swirling. And you can keep going a little bit more. Just get it how you want it. I cannot wait to see what these look like. I hope you take your time and do a really good job. And I will see you next time. Bye.